Welcome to the grind.
There's a 2-hour window I get to see my woman. There's a clock ticking on her. It ain't my friend. Work wasn't easy, but we've been fit. Oh, I'm home, and she's off to bed. Oh, no. Money, my baby liar.
Welcome, everyone, to another. He's just relentless with this thing. Another episode of The Daily Grind. I'm your host, Devin Murray. How was everyone's first midweek in-season tournament night, huh? Did it feel a little different, huh? Make your tacos taste a little more competitive, I couldn't tell, but maybe you could. I don't want to speak for you guys, you know. You're right. I'm stalling. Just call me Joseph the way that I'm stalling. All right, you guys want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. I'm not embarrassed. This is why we throw, feces against the wall, and we just see what sticks. I wasn't telling any of you guys to go out and bet the over-under on the courts. You let me do that. You let me test the waters, and I'll report back to you. And boy, oh boy, do I have a report for you guys. So we did our over-unders based on our color theory last night on all 10 games, and unfortunately we went 3-7 in the over-unders. Not very impressive. On the gray courts, but there were two gray courts and then there was one neutral colored court, and I had been grouping those together. Both of the unders on the gray courts lost pretty handily. Team scored a lot on the gray courts last night. The neutral color court that did hit was the Warriors game. That one hit pretty easily. Total there was only 205. Our one red court that we had went way over. That was the 76ers game, and they combined for like 250-something points. So that one was just dead in the water. And then the colorful courts got off to kind of a tough start at the Hornets. Just both of those teams stink. And candidly, I accidentally bet that game twice, so I took the double loss on it. The Thunder over didn't hit on their blue court because the Spurs are terrible. As we talked about, I was kind of hoping that Jeremy Sohan wouldn't play because I think their offense is a little bit better whenever he doesn't play. And sure enough, he came out and just stunk it up. They're no good with him on the court. The Jazz on that beautiful purple court didn't hit the over because the Blazers and the Jazz combined for 33 points in the fourth quarter. The Jazz by themselves, just the five guys on the floor, scored 36 points in the first quarter, but the 10 players that took the court in the fourth quarter could only combine for 33 points between the two of them, so that over lost. The over on the Lakers game hit, and the over on the Pelicans game on that purple court hit by like 2 points, point and a half really. And so, we're shooting the color theory down. Or are we? Because here's the thing. All right. Before you completely reject the idea, and I thought about this right after I finished recording the pod. Those were all Friday night in-season tournament games that we were basing our entire data set off of, right? Right? These were Tuesday night in-season tournament games. Totally different atmosphere. Totally different psychological mechanics at work here. And so I'm going to keep monitoring this for you guys because, I'm a great host and that's what I do. I'm going to keep pumping out this kind of content and these kind of angles for you guys and gals. But on first pass through, or I guess our first two passes, because I took all the unders in the first in-season tournament session. But we're going to split these up going forward. We're going to go Friday night in-season tournament games and Tuesday night in-season tournament games. And we'll see what we got. And again, we're sprinkling just a little bit of money on these. We aren't too worried about it on it. We are in the proof of theory phase for sure. Other trends that didn't do so hot last night were home dogs. And again, I think this is a Tuesday thing. I think that Friday night crowd really matters. So you bet I'm getting back on the home dogs on Friday. But the Pistons were 4.5-point dogs. They lost by 6. They got it really close at the end. I think they tied it up, maybe took the lead at one point, and then faltered off. The Hornets were kind of down the whole time. They lost by 6, and on a couple of books, you could get them at 6.5. I wasn't able to get them at 6.5, so I'm not going to count that as a win for the home dogs system. The other home dog that we took was the Pelicans at plus 3.5, and they easily covered. They smoked Dallas. And the other one that ended up being a dog since Steph was out was the Warriors. As we talked about, we took the Timberwolves live yesterday on the podcast at -3 before that line moved any further. Obviously, I'm sure everyone's seen or at least heard about what happened last night with Draymond. But not just Draymond got ejected, Klay Thompson also got ejected, and Jaden McDaniels got ejected. And so that game was a little weird, and I'm totally fine with it because the Wolves ended up winning by 3, and I just pushed my bet. So probably didn't deserve to win that one if I was going to win it due to the 2 ejections, but probably didn't deserve to lose it either since we lost Jaden McDaniels. So we'll take a push there, and we'll be happy with it. But let's see, home dogs on the night were 1-2, 1-2-1 if you include the Warriors game. Other quick thoughts: are the Hawks better without Trae Young? Is that a spicy take? I really liked what I saw from them running everything through DeJounte Murray. Now, I didn't watch that entire game. My attention was a little split, but their offensive numbers were real good with Murray, handling the ball. And we've talked about before on the podcast that the Hawks do struggle in their pick and roll game, and it seems to be a lot dependent on who the ball handler is and whether or not they're willing to dump it down to the roll man. They have the number 1 roll man offense in the league, and then like the worst ball handling pick and roll offense in the league. So that's something that I plan on diving a little bit deeper into soon, especially if Trae Young is out for any extended amount of time with the birth of his daughter. That seems to be why he was out. But he'll probably be back soon. Something to keep an eye on. Now, one thing that we do need to keep in mind is that for the Pistons, they have lost now 8 in a row, and they were missing their, stud rookie center Jalen Duren. So, kind of need to keep that in mind whenever we're talking long-term implications of what the Hawks look like without Trae Young. I know that there is at least a little conversation going around that team might get split up at some point. So just something to keep an eye on. Another note from last night's games, the one game that I didn't end up getting in on because I was a little hesitant at first and I shouldn't have been, it ended up being a blowout, was the Thunder game. Thunder were favored by about 10, and I saw them at like 9.5, and I hesitated, and then it went to 13, and then I just never really got back to where I thought I had a feel for the game. But the Spurs really missed Trey Jones, and we should have hammered that bet. Really got to stick to our guns here. I probably need to go in and get these bets in earlier and stop PFing around. We won't say that word because who knows if the algorithm knows about hyphenated words, but you know what I mean. It's a bad team whenever Jeremy Sohan is running the ship. Jeremy Sohan was a -31 last night. I mean, so was Wembenyama, so say what you will, but I've seen enough to know who the problem is on that team. Tre Jones has missed 3 games so far, the last 3 games. I'm not sure if he missed early in the season, but they've lost all 3 of those games. Now, granted, they lost the last 3 that he played. So, I guess it's just kind of all bad down there in San Antonio. Everyone was looking forward to this as kind of the Rookie of the Year showdown between Chet and Wemby, and both of them stunk it up. Chet had 9.7 rebounds on 30% shooting, 1 of 5 from 3, 2 steals, 1 block, 2 turnovers. Way better plus minus than Wemby, obviously. And Wemby put up 8 and 14 with 2 assists on 4 of 15 shooting, missed all 3 of his threes, 2 blocks, 5 turnovers. It wasn't pretty, obviously, anywhere on the Spurs. That's what happens whenever you lose by 36. But I think that this just shows how much more talented of a team Chet is on, and I think that's really going to factor into any of the voters' minds for Rookie of the Year. You add that in with just the wow factor of Wembanyama and the publicity that he gets, I still feel pretty good about my Wembanyama Rookie of the Year bet, despite the huge blowout loss last night to Chet. The Clippers might be kind of figuring some things out. If we're going to talk about the Clippers, they looked pretty good last night. They ended up losing to the Nuggets 111 to 108, but they ended up covering. The Nuggets were 4.5-point favorites, or at least that's what my idiot self got them at. I'm really impressed at my ability to not swear on this podcast. You guys have no idea how many times I just want to let some choice words slip out, but I don't. I Nate Bargatze this thing. All right, back to the Clippers. I kind of believe in the Clippers a little bit more than I did. Yeah, they were moping around. I saw a clip today. I'll see if I can find it. I'll try to retweet it on Twitter, on X. I'll try to re-X it on X. But there was a clip going around of Westbrook getting subbed out and him moping on the bench afterwards. Late in the game, had like a towel on his head, and then there was a clip of Kawhi like griping at Zubac for being in the wrong spot. But I mean, that's just basketball. That just happens. I didn't really think too much about that part of the clip. Again, I didn't trust James Harden at elevation, and I thought Harden still looked a little slow. But this was the first time watching the Clippers where I kind of understood what the game plan was long term. I could see how this would work in a playoff series. And betting wise, just looking at this one particular game, my hesitation for the Nuggets was that they are still missing Jamal Murray. And yes, he's their number 2 guy on offense, but he really brings that defensive intensity that you want to see, especially whenever you've got as much talent as the Clippers do. And while I was watching the game, the Nuggets just looked a little slow and uninterested on the perimeter, on the defensive perimeter. If you watched the game, you probably noticed that the Clippers got a lot of easy looks. Like in semi-transition, the Nuggets just weren't getting to that. They weren't rotating over to that, second, third pass. Anytime that the Clippers were able to get it into the lane, it seemed like that kick out in the corner was open pretty much every time, and nobody was able to get out that far. Just getting uncontested buckets out in the corner, you didn't want to see it. While I was watching the game, I didn't think that the Nuggets were ever really going to cover. It was a back and forth game. And so I've never been a big Harden fan. I've been very vocal so far on the podcast about how I didn't like this trade for the Clippers. But you run this a few more times, you get these roles a little bit more defined, you keep seeing this intensity from Paul George and Kawhi, and you keep seeing them playing and seeing them play healthy and looking like the best versions of themselves. I don't know, if somehow Ty Lue can manage these egos and fit these round holes into the round spaces and these square pegs into the square spaces, Round holes into round spaces. Round pegs into round spaces. You know what I mean. You got it. You know what I'm talking about. If he can do that, I see how this could work. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I, as a geological engineer, still think that there's a good chance that this tunnel collapses before you're able to get out of it, but I do see the light at the end. I see where you're headed, Steve Ballmer. I just don't know if you're going to get there. But I'm excited to watch. If nothing else, if this falls apart, it won't go out with a whimper. This will be some kind of explosive fallout with this team if they're not able to put it together. So I guess the real winner in the Harden trade is us. This is a much more fun storyline than listen to Joel Embiid mope about James Harden. And as we've stated before, we're only here for entertainment. So now I'm a huge fan of the Harden trade. Let's keep it going. I want to see this. This is now going to be one of my most watched teams. All right, let's get through tonight's matchups pretty quickly here. I've got a busy day, so this is going to be a short episode, or as short as I can make it. Recording a little earlier in the day than usual, so we are missing a couple injury reports. You'll have to check on that or follow us on Twitter at The Grind Podcast to confirm whether or not these people are going to be out or in and what the plays are based on that. But I am going to try to get all my plays in by 5:30. That's when everyone should be finalized as in or out. Okay, first game of the night is Mavericks at Wizards. The Mavericks are on a back-to-back on the road. They played last night in New Orleans. They got beat pretty handily. The Wizards have been off for a little bit, should be well rested. This line opened up at -5.5. It's now 4.5 to 5, depending on where you look. A lot of the bets are coming in on the Mavericks. Just about the same amount of money is coming in on the Mavericks. Of note, Kyrie is questionable tonight, but I think that the Mavericks have looked fine without Kyrie. After a bad loss last night, look for the Mavericks to bounce back. Going to take the Mavs -4.5. Next game up, we've got the New York Knicks traveling to Atlanta. This opened up at Hawks -1.5, and it's somewhere around a pick'em now, depending on what book you're looking at. The bets are coming in on the Hawks, but a lot of the money is coming in on New York. Sometimes you wonder if that's just a New York bias, some big city, big spenders, you know. Gonna hold off on making a bet here because the Hawks have not submitted an injury report yet. Only the Knicks have, and they've got RJ Barrett as questionable. Want to know whether or not Trae Young is going to play tonight. If he's not playing, I expect this line to move a little bit towards the Knicks. And as we discussed earlier, I like the Hawks whenever Trae Young doesn't play. I like DeJounte Murray having the ball more than Trae Young. So I'm leaning the Hawks here, but we're going to wait on the injury report to come out. All right, next up, we've got the Boston Celtics traveling to Philadelphia. This opened up as a 1.5-point favorite for the Sixers. It's now moved to the Celtics -4. And a big reason for that, it looks like, is that 98% of the money is coming in on the Celtics. Now, it is early. I'm sure this will balance out a little bit, but that is the largest discrepancy that I've seen, especially when you take into account that the bets are split 50-50. Somebody came in and dumped a literal ton of money on the Celtics. One thing to note from the injury report here is that Jaylen Brown is questionable and Kristaps Porzingis is questionable. Now, what I would like to see here, and the Sixers haven't submitted their injury report yet, so we're going to have to hold off on making a final bet here. But I like the Celtics when Jaylen Brown's not on the court. Not been a huge fan of his minutes so far. So for me, if KP is in and JB is out, I'm going to take the Celtics. If JB is playing as well, I'm curious to see what the line does, because the line might swing go a little bit too far in the Celtics' favor. So we're going to hold off on this. Ideally for me, JB out, KP in, line kind of stays where it's at, and we take the Celtics -4. Next game up, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks traveling to Toronto to take on the Raptors. The Bucks opened up as 3-point favorites. It's now moved to 5. And a good amount of the bets are coming in on the Bucks. The money is completely split. So the Sharps are leaning towards the Raptors a little bit. Now, both of these injury reports are out. Giannis is probable. He's got a right calf injury, and personally, right calf injuries, left calf injuries scare the crap out of me. I've just seen so many blown Achilles lately that I don't really want to put that out there, but every time I see that pop up on the injury report, it just makes me a little queasy whenever they're probable. But if Giannis plays, I like Milwaukee here. Now, if you've been listening to the pod, you know that I haven't been a huge supporter of the Bucks, but OG Anunoby is doubtful, Dennis Schroeder is questionable, Gary Trent Jr. is doubtful. If all three of those guys are out, or two of those three guys are out, I just don't see the Raptors being able to get into their sets too well. Gary Trent Jr. is, a good wing defender. Obviously, OG Anunoby is one of the best wing defenders in the league. And so if we can get Giannis playing and we can get two of those three wing guys for the Raptors out, then we will be going with the Bucks -5. Okay, next up we've got the Orlando Magic traveling to Chicago to take on the Bulls. The Magic played last night in Brooklyn and got beat pretty handily, and I know that because I bet on the Magic. Now, a good amount of the money is coming in on the Bulls here. The bets are pretty much 50-50. Did I say the line already? This opened up at Bulls -2.5, and now it's about 1.5. I think you're seeing that line drop a little bit because DeMar DeRozan is out. Patrick Williams is probable. Alex Caruso is questionable. And the Magic still have most of their injury issues. Wendell Carter Jr. is out. Markelle Fultz is still out. But Gary Harris is available for the first time in a while. This is pretty simple for me. With DeRozan out and this line staying, the Magic are still catching points, then I'm going to lean with the Magic. I just think that they're a better team. I think that they're probably pretty embarrassed about their loss last night. It's a young team. I'm not worried about them traveling on a back-to-back. So give me the Magic, +1.5. All right, next up, probably the most exciting game of the night, we've got the Minnesota Timberwolves traveling to Phoenix to take on the Suns. This opened up at Suns -6. It's now Suns 5.5 to 6, depending on where you're looking. Bets are split pretty evenly, but a good amount of the money is coming in on the T-Wolves here. The Wolves have not submitted their injury report yet, but it looks like the Suns are going to have their big three available for, I think, just the second time so far this year. Or no, was it the first? I don't think Booker played last time, did he? We got another right calf strain for Devin Booker. But it looks like Beal and Booker are probable, as well as Eric Gordon. Now, of note here, the T-Wolves are playing their third in 4 nights on the road. They just played 2 at Golden State, playing tonight in Phoenix. They're also playing their 4th in 6 nights on the road, okay? They played San Antonio last Friday. And if you want to go back even further, they're playing their 5th in 7 nights. This is why we keep up with the schedule, guys. I think I take the Suns here. That's just a schedule loss in my book. Those are 2 emotionally charged games against the Warriors. I can't see them getting up to that same peak against the Suns. So I think that Vegas made this line a little high. If you want to say that this is our fishy line of the night, I think we've got our catch of the day here, everybody. Vegas knows that the public loves the T-Wolves. Why is this line 6? I think it's 6 because they think, the T-Wolves are going to keep this close. This is going to be a good game. And you see that from the public and the Sharps sprinkling a little bit more money on the T-Wolves. I'm going Suns. I'm going against the grain. Give me the Suns -5.5. Okay, next up we've got the Cleveland Cavaliers traveling out west to Portland to take on the Trailblazers. This opened up at 9.5 for the Cavs, and it's now moved to 10.5. Although a good amount of the public money is coming in on the Blazers. Like a good amount is coming in on the Blazers. Not so much on the Sharp side. The Sharps are pretty down on the Blazers. But still, more of the money is on the Blazers. Now, the Cavs are going to be missing Darius Garland tonight and Isaac Okoro. Those are their 2 big injuries out tonight that should be pretty impactful. We don't know about the Blazers yet. They haven't submitted their injury report yet. But who they've been missing recently has been Simons, Henderson, and one other guy. And I don't think that any of those are expected to come back tonight. Oh, that's right. Malcolm Brogdon has been out. But he is now apparently a game-time decision. At least that's what he's listed on ESPN. So this is one where we're going to have to watch the injury report. Because if Malcolm Brogdon comes back in, that really does change things for me whenever I'm evaluating this game. Because I think 10.5 points is already a lot at Portland. And if Malcolm Brogdon's back in, he's able to get them into their sets. More so than I think Scoot ever was. Oh, yeah, also Robert Williams is out for the year. We know that. So he's not coming back tonight. But, you know, I've said since the first game of the season that Malcolm Brogdon looked like a guy that was trying to play himself into a trade to a better team. And if he's on the court and he's got the ball and he's the main facilitator, don't expect Portland to go quietly into the night here, because that guy is trying to get the hell out of Oregon. So we'll wait and see on the injury report, but we're kind of leaning the Blazers plus 10.5. If Brogdon's out, then we're definitely going Cavs. They could make the line 20, and I'd at least think about it. All right, last game of the night. We've got Sacramento Kings going to LA to take on the Lakers. It looks like De'Aaron Fox is back for good. He's not on the injury report tonight. Trey Lyles still is. Alex Len is now on the injury report. The Lakers have not submitted their injury report yet. The Lakers are hosting a back-to-back tonight. They played my Memphis Grizzlies last night, and I believe they won by 3. So this game is also on ESPN, so I would expect pretty much the entire roster to play. I don't think that we'll be seeing them sit any of their big stars for this game, especially because this is a little regional rivalry now, right? De'Aaron Fox is back. I think that the Lakers are going to want to put their best foot forward. The Kings beat the Lakers earlier this year in Sacramento. They lit the beam on them. I'm sure that LeBron didn't take too kindly to that. This line opened up at -2.5 for the Lakers. It's now moved down to about -1.5 on some books. You're seeing a lot of the public, 80% of the public, coming in on the Kings, which is kind of surprising. I guess people just hate the Lakers, you know? It's the opposite of that Knicks bias, maybe. I guess the West Coast hasn't woken up yet to start placing their bets. I'm sure that that'll drop at some point, but it's being backed up, you know, by the Sharps. Same amount of money is coming in on the Kings, 80-20. And so none of the Sharps have had a huge problem with that and come in and hammered the Lakers yet. We're going to hold off on making an official pick here. You'll have to follow on Twitter. I think the Kings have been real frisky with De'Aaron Fox, so I expect this to be a really good game. But if the Lakers come in with a full roster, then I'm going to kind of lean them as long as this line stays under 4. But if it gets released that everybody's playing, this line could easily jump. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But we are leaning towards the Lakers. I do like them to win this game as long as it's somewhat full strength versus full strength. All right. That's it for tonight. Sorry we got through those kind of quickly, but hope you enjoy your night of regularly colored basketball courts tonight. Your eyes can take the night off and just relax a little bit and watch what it's used to. So again, just sprinkle a little on any bets if you're doing any bets. Don't do anything crazy. Still early in the season. Hadn't had any ones where we're like, hey, put the mortgage on this one. I'll let you know when they come around. I'm sure we'll have at least one that pops up. But we haven't had one so far. So be responsible. Stay safe. Thanks again for listening to The Grind.
Oh, I'm home, and she's off to bed. Oh no, money.